So many have stood strong and spoken out in the fight against social injustice since the death of George Floyd 1 month ago today. Some making enormous sacrifices, like WNBA star and Atlanta Dream point guard Renee Montgomery, who sent out this tweet earlier this month. She said, "After much thought, I've decided to opt out of the 2020 WNBA season. There's work to be done off the court in so many areas in our community. Social justice reform isn't going to happen overnight, but I do feel that now is the time, and moments equal momentum. Let's keep it going." And we now keep it going by welcoming in Renee Montgomery, who said those words. Renee, we're so glad to have you with us. And let's get right to it. You are passing on the WNBA season to work on social justice reform. What was your thought process in deciding to make this decision?
Yeah, my thought process was right now, America's listening. We have America's ear, and companies are trying to change. Companies are trying to do different things. So while they're listening and want to do those things, we need to try to get as much as we can in, because being realistic, it's not going to be like this forever.
Renee, thank you so much for being on the show. Let me ask you this question. What is it that you believe that you can accomplish in this next year that you would not have been able to had you elected to play this season?
Yeah, so basically having all hands on deck. And in the WNBA season, we were going to have 3 games a week. And if people know, if you're an athlete, you know 3 games a week means there's film, there's still practice. Where would I have time to plan and get things going? So for me, it was just my personal. I know that when I'm all in, I'm all in. And right now, I was not all in for basketball. So that's the thought process for me. It's just I don't do well with being halfway.
Renee, for NBA players, there are a couple considerations, it seems to me. One is the money they have to give up, and the other is the question as to whether getting back to business as usual allows white people who have resisted the idea that Black Lives Matter to get back to their new normal, or their old normal, which was not normal for everybody. Let's make a new normal that's normal for everybody. But the counter to that was maybe you have a bigger platform if you're actually playing. Now, the financial considerations, I imagine in the WNBA, I know the pay is not nearly the same, so you're not sacrificing as much money. On the other hand, I'm sure that WNBA players also probably don't have the nest egg that NBA players can build. So there's the financial consideration on the one hand, and on the other hand, the platform versus back to normal consideration. Can you speak to both of those, financial and platform?
Yeah, well, financially, there's NBA players still living check to check. So there's a lot of people that can't afford it. There's a lot of people that may want to sit out, but financially, it's just not in it for them because they're taking care of their family. It's a responsibility they have. And on the second thing is the platform. Since opting out, my voice has been amplified. I've been on CNN, BBC. I'm talking to you guys. Now, I don't think that would happen if I was just going to go play normal. I just don't see you guys reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, Renee, we know you're into it." So for the people that think that my platform is going to diminish, I think that it's done the opposite.
Yeah, that's so well said, Renee. Colin Kaepernick has become an icon as a part of this movement and obviously faced so much backlash early on when he was ahead of the game, ahead of a lot of other people. How do you think that Kaepernick will be remembered as when it's all said and done, when we look back on his place in history?
Yeah, and that's the great debate, right? Because everybody's like, did he do enough? But Colin Kaepernick got the conversation going. If nothing else, he started that conversation that needed to be had. People didn't understand what he was doing when he was doing it, but now when we look back, you can see, I get it. He understood that he understood what we understand now. So he was ahead of his time. He's looking like the smartest person in the room. So for that reason, him getting the conversation started is very important, and he should be remembered for that.
Renee, on the surface alone, your position seems to be that would mirror what Kyrie Irving, Dwight Howard, and others were willing to do in terms of sitting out this summer to really focus on the movement as opposed to even being distracted by playing games. And Steven Jackson, to his credit, has been a guy on the front line. He's a personal friend with George Floyd. He made his position well known. Looking at them as NBA players, specifically Kyrie, with the exorbitant contract that he has, and what the platform that the NBA has, which obviously is far more significant than even the WNBA. Can you tell me what your decision would have been? I know you said all in, no matter what. But if you were one of those players that had that platform available to you while playing, and still being able to make your money, what would your position have been if you were one of those NBA players as opposed to the WNBA, obviously?
Yeah, it's a way more difficult decision. We're talking millions, and anytime you up the ante and talk millions, it's a way more difficult decision. But if I was still going to be me, I would still have the same nephews I have. I would still have a mom that had to be a part of a walkout at her high school. Listen, I grew up in West Virginia, so if I was still me in the male form, I would probably still feel the same way I did because how I was brought up is why I feel this way. Being born and raised in West Virginia, where 3% is black in my city, that's me. So whether I was a male or female, whether what platform, that's what made me who I am. So I do think that I would do the same thing. And just on the Kyrie bit, I think we all need to listen to the message. A lot of the NBA players, it seems like they're on different sides of the spectrum, but there's a lot of NBA players fighting over how to create the most change, and that should be the conversation, I think.
Renee, we've seen, even just in recent elections, voter suppression in Georgia, in Kentucky, and other places. I know that's a subject that you are interested in. What do you plan on doing about it?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. LeBron James's team brought me in on the More Than a Vote campaign. We know in Georgia it's bad. Georgia, we're repeat offenders. We have an election coming up in November. So I think, again, you bring to a situation, talking to the people that run the polls. The excuses last time were, oh, wow, we didn't expect this many people, or we have new machines. That's out this time. In November, you don't have that excuse. So we need Obama numbers in November, and we need people to not have to wait 5+ hours. Like, that's crazy.
Renee, that's obviously something that's so important to you, but I know you probably feel like there is more change that needs to happen in a variety of ways. So just tell us some of those areas, the more change that you want to see.
Yeah, I think I'm going to focus on education reform in a sense that why aren't our history books just in chronological order? We take a month out in February to talk about all things Black. Why not just put it in order where the Black history is in America? Put it in the history book. So that's one thing. The second thing is HBCUs. My parents met at an HBCU. My sister went there. I think that HBCUs lack a lot of funding and funding to create creative programming and different things of that nature. So I think education will change lives, and that's where you have to start.
I love it. Great stuff. Renee Montgomery, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for what you're doing, using your voice and using your platform right now. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys for
Renee.
having me.